All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Sorry about that 2 minutes turning into 12. That's what happens sometimes. Thanks for finding your seat and bringing your attention to the stage. I know we've got some folks who are still doing some last-minute photos with Amy, but I am excited to get going on the next session. My name is Caitlin Carlson, and I have the privilege of supporting the Women in Philanthropy community as part of the University Advancement Engagement team. On behalf of our volunteer founders and champions, I want to thank you for joining us today. And I have the honor of welcoming our next guest, who will help introduce the next session. And she is graciously here for just a few minutes. As you can imagine, being the university president comes with many tasks and obligations, so we're so grateful that she's here for a few minutes to help us kick off this next session. And please help me welcome the 15th president of Colorado State University, President Joyce McConnell.
Thank you. So happy International Women's Day. This is a great, great event to celebrate the power of women. And I'm just going to quote Amy for a minute. There's nothing more powerful than a group of women. And I absolutely love that quote. I've written it down. Now I'm going to use it. Thank you all for being here today. It's wonderful to see all of you. I'm sorry I can't stay longer, but I actually had committed to do a keynote for the International Women's Association of Small Business Owners, so which I'm very actually pleased to do. I'm really delighted to be here with all of you and be able to introduce this session. Today is a really special day. I love our female coaches, I have to tell you. I just love them. They're really extraordinary, and I'm really, really excited to be able to introduce them. It's a lot of fun for me to have them here. I think they feel the same way about me because I really appreciate very much what they do. It's really important for our female athletes to see women who've risen to the level that these coaches have risen. And for all of you who know any kind of enterprise that has historically been male-dominated, to rise through the ranks as a female coach is a really big deal. So you all are rocking it. So this event brings together women who are committed to one another and committed to the idea of giving back through philanthropy. And philanthropy is something that we tend to think of as we're going to write a check. But philanthropy is also what we give of ourselves. And one of the things that's really extraordinary about women is that we do give of ourselves. And one of the important things we heard from Amy is that it's also important to take care of ourselves. And so we have to remember that balance of giving and then giving to ourselves. And so I think that that's a wonderful way to think about philanthropy, is that it's actually outward-facing and internal-facing. We have to be good to ourselves. I want to introduce our coaches, and I guess you could come up as I introduce you. The first is Jen Fisher, who is our softball head coach. And the young women that she coaches are truly extraordinary. And if you get a chance to go to a women's softball game, please do. It's so much fun. You get to sit outside.
We got to have you back because we hit a walk-off last time you came and watched. So the girls were saying, we got to have Joyce back to our game.
I had so much fun at that game, and I'll be back. Okay. And then Laura Cilek, who is the head coach of women's golf. Great to see you. Oh, it's good to see you. I appreciate you. Keeley Hagen, who's the head coach of women's soccer. Woo! How are you? It's great to see you. And Mai-Ly Tran, who is our head coach of women's tennis. So one of the things I like to say is I'm old, and so I graduated from high school pre-Title IX. Okay, this is the 50th anniversary this year of Title IX, so I hope all of you will come to our anniversary celebration, which will be in April. Do you remember the day? It's like the 25th or 22nd? 28th, okay. Thank you. So the 28th. Now, the reason I tell you that I am a woman who graduated from high school before Title IX is that one of the things that coaches frequently ask me is, you like athletics so much, did you ever play? And the answer is, we had no female athletics in my high school at all. Right? We didn't have lacrosse, we didn't have field hockey, we didn't have tennis. So the answer is no. I had no experience as an athlete, but I would like to have because I'm incredibly competitive. And so it would have been fun to have had that experience. Instead, I've channeled all of my competitive drive into making CSU the absolute best, top public university in the world. Now, I have an opportunity to introduce someone else who I just think is fabulous, and that is Kendra Gipson. And Kendra is a third year. She's studying political science and business administration. She's also a student athlete on the women's soccer team. And a presidential ambassador. And for those of you who don't know anything about the presidential ambassadors, these are a very special group of students who represent us at really critical events and tell their story and the CSU story. And these young people are extraordinary, and Kendra is also very extraordinary. And like all of our presidential ambassadors, she's balancing a million different things, including being an athlete, which I know takes an enormous amount of time and dedication, and sometimes you're exhausted, but you never look it. And so thank you for doing this. And she's going to be the moderator of our panel of coaches. So thank you all very much. Again, I'm sorry I have to run, but it's so good to see all of you. I'm giving it to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Is it on? Okay. Thank you for being here. My name is Kendra Gipson, and I am a junior studying political science and business administration. I am also a presidential ambassador and a member of the women's soccer team. On behalf of Women in Philanthropy, I'm thrilled to welcome you to our second session of Gather today. As the nation marks the 50th anniversary of Title IX, CSU celebrates a milestone of our own. More women are leading CSU programs as head coaches than ever before. And today, we are so excited to have 4 of those head coaches here to talk about breaking down barriers, achieving success, and the future of their sports. I'm thrilled to introduce our panel, and then we'll get started with a few questions. Jen Fisher is the head coach of women's softball. Coach Fisher has been at the helm of the Colorado State softball program since 2010. And in 2019, she was named Mountain West Coach of the Year. The team just wrapped up the weather-shortened Colorado Classic this weekend. Both games were a battle until the very end, and the Rams lost close games to Wisconsin and Utah Valley. Laura Cilek is the head coach of women's golf. This is Coach Cilek's 4th season, and in her relatively short time at CSU, she has already made an impact. In 2019, she led the Rams to their lowest round average in program history and their first tournament win. Next up for women's golf is the Clover Cup this weekend in Mesa, Arizona. Keeley Hagen is the head coach of women's soccer. After 8 seasons as an assistant at Texas, the 3-time All-American and former professional soccer player joined CSU in June 2021. Coach Hagen's team's first full game will be at Northern Colorado on Saturday, April 2nd, with kickoff scheduled at 3 p.m. Mai-Ly Tran is the head coach of women's tennis. After leading Drake to an NCAA tournament and winning Conference Coach of the Year honors, Coach Tran joined CSU in July 2021. The team just returned from a 1-day, 2-city road trip to Arizona where they came away with a split, defeating Grand Canyon University and falling in a tight match to number 44, Arizona. Welcome, coaches, and thank you for being here. We've got a couple of questions for each of you, but this is really meant to be a conversation. Plus, I think you all know each other pretty well, so feel free to jump in as we go. The first question is for Coach Fisher, and I'd love for others to chime in too. You are an athlete, and I've read that you grew up playing sports. In your experience, are there certain barriers that have been removed to make things better for coaches, athletes, and all others involved?
I'm an athlete, was an athlete. So thank you for saying that. I think several barriers have been lowered. I wouldn't say taken down. When I thought about this question, I think we've overcome a lot of stereotypes. The first is if you can actually believe it. So these coaches are a good 10 to 15 years younger than I am, but if you can believe it, there was a time when we didn't think that exercise was healthy for women. So that certainly has been shattered, right? We know that actually the Women's Sports Foundation has done a lot of research, and that getting teens involved in sports is actually really good for their physical and mental well-being. So we've shattered that one. I think we've overcome a lot of stereotypes that women don't belong in leadership positions. I think we have, as we see here, our wonderful president of Colorado State is a woman. We've got senior administrators that are women. I think we're seeing more women in marketing, and we're seeing more women in media, like Amy Van Dyken. And many of you probably know Susie Wargen, a CSU alum, and Jenny Kavnar, CSU alum that does work for the Rockies. If you like to watch baseball, there's a former softball player, Jessica Mendoza, that does a lot of Sunday night baseball. So I think that's really starting to go away. We have a new strength and conditioning assistant coach that's a woman in the football program. And of course, many of you know the story of Becky Hammond, who has shattered that glass ceiling. And I think we're also beginning to overcome the stereotype that women in girls' sports are uninteresting. I think, I think we're seeing, last year we saw better coverage, better viewership on ESPN of the women's softball College World Series. It outranked the men. So the average viewership was like 1.2 million of the women's softball College World Series. So I think that argument that women's sports are less interesting, therefore deserve less coverage, we're really starting to shatter that stereotype. And along those lines, I will say I have a 21-year-old son, and I do believe since I've grown up that young men are really much more interested. So we have brothers, fathers, uncles, cousins, and boyfriends and significant others that are interested in their sister or their girlfriend's career. My son ends up catching a lot of bullpens for his girlfriend who's a member of the softball team, and I just don't think that really happened very much back in the 1990s when I was growing up. The games were not really as exciting. So I think we're dispelling those myths, and in those cases we're getting equal pay. The work that Venus Williams has done and the work that the women U.S. national team has done to try to help with equal pay. And as many of you probably saw, the NCAA is starting to pay more attention. So last year during the pandemic, the comparison of facilities in the NCAA women's March Madness versus men's was really brought to light. And so I think social media has helped have a platform, and our female athletes have been strong and stood up and had a platform. So those are some of the barriers that I think are starting to come down. I wouldn't say they've been removed, but they're coming down. So what else have you guys seen?
Is this on? Yeah. There we go. I think definitely social media has helped bring awareness. Like you were talking about last year with the March Madness, the women, and I think this is something that I think is pretty cool about the student athletes themselves, is they went into their weight room at March Madness and noticed that it wasn't right. So they took their phone out, took a picture, put it online, and put some pressure on those in charge to really make a difference. And I think that's been a huge, I don't want to say, it's a huge impact on their ability as student athletes to speak out, because, you're putting that at the forefront of you're basically saying, hey, NCAA, what are you going to do about this? Where, 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have a cell phone to get out, picture and snap it, Sure, I bet there weren't even cameras back there to take pictures of that. And I don't think they knew the difference at that point either. So they're seeing what the men have. They're pushing from their platforms to make it more equal, which I think is really great, because they feel like they have the power to do that and someone's going to listen. So I think that that's a really, really big thing right now, is they know that when it's not right, they need to find a way to speak out and fight for it. And, a lot of, I would say, more powerful, more influential big names in different sports are kind of taking that upon themselves. Just different teams who have those platforms, they speak out. And I think that's made a huge difference for all of our sports. So the student athletes are definitely doing a better job of speaking up when they see things not equal.
I concur. I got the next question, so go ahead.
That's great. Thank you so much. Coach Hagen, I'll start with you on my follow-up question. What barriers still exist, and what can we do to remove those so future athletes can thrive?
So I've been fortunate to have several strong women in my playing career and coaching career. Just a little bit of background. I played at the University of Tennessee, which as soon as Tennessee got word about Title IX, they decided, hey, we're going to do something about this. So for me, I am a great success story of Title IX, because I really didn't have the impact that maybe Jen or even President had. And so I didn't really know any different. We had separate athletic programs, men's and women's. We had a women's athletic director. We had Coach Pat Summitt, one of the greatest, who was pushing. So for me as an athlete, we were right there. And so when I hear barriers, I think of challenges, right? What challenges have we had, right? Because those are there. And then challenges then become opportunities. And we've obviously had a ton of strong women from Title IX in the beginning that have just kept fighting for those opportunities for women. So I think for right now, for the future athlete, it's our climate, it's our economy, it's our culture of what's going on. Social media has been a positive, but then it's also been a negative from how does that impact the students and student athlete with the pressures, right? The anxiety. And so for us, it's constantly providing opportunities for services that we can make sure that we're treating the athlete and the students holistically in the event of, okay, how can we help them where they're at? Right? What kind of struggles are they going through? So that's an ongoing process, because the pandemic has totally shaken up everything. So it's constantly thinking, forward thinking in the events of, hey, these things are happening. If we want to build facilities for our women to keep up, that costs way more now than it used to, right? Salaries are costing way more. So those are the types of things that, even though those are real events, we're still pushing those opportunities. I think the second thing is also pushing the fact that the academic environment is so incredibly competitive. Right? It's the student athletes' peers are pushing and raising the bar, even with SAT levels. So that's another pressure that our student athletes are going into the academic environment and having to have those challenges. And that's hard, and that's the pressure they're going to put on them, because at the end of the day, this is a 4-year short period that we're giving them lessons and tools as coaches to set them up for life after their sport, but they're also having to deal with a lot in those 4 years that's we have to make sure as coaches that we're recognizing that and providing services to help them be successful.
Cilek, let's start with you for the next question, then we'll hear from everyone. How is the next generation of female athletes and coaches inspiring you?
That's a great question. I think kind of tying into what we were talking about earlier, I think they're speaking up a lot more. They're feeling like they're heard, which is important. I try every day, kind of like Keeley was saying, just to a lot of the lessons we have in golf or in our athletic space to tie them to, what they're going to do every day in their daily life once they get out of school. So there's going to be hard conversations you're going to have with your boss if you want to get paid more. Or maybe you have a male counterpart who's, making you feel uncomfortable in an environment. That's a hard conversation you're going to have. And I think that's where student athletes really have a step up on a lot of people graduating from college. Is that's a part of our sport and environment we have where we can prepare them for those things and educate them on those. And I think coaches, everyone up here is a great example of that. I mean, we're all trying to fight for equality with the men's side in our jobs. And so I think I try to educate them on conversations I have in the workplace to try to promote myself. I try to prepare them for them if they're feeling ways like, okay, how can we bring this up in a manner that's going to be productive, right? Because a lot of it, they do feel like they're not getting the same things, and it's like, okay, let's talk about that. How can we bring that up in a productive way to have some movement going forward, and just validating those feelings, right? I mean, we've all felt that in the workplace or, in sports or in life at some point, and I think I'm just inspired by coaches every day, student athletes who are noticing that stuff and trying to make a difference, right? Not just saying, oh, it's kind of how it is, right? It's like, how can I take on this barrier that's still here? Yes, it's better. They're having better opportunities, but they're still there, and they're going to be the ones, the next generation, the ones we have, the ones we're recruiting to really make differences in not only athletics, but whatever they go into after, right? Like, she's going to be big-time lawyer someday, right? You're learning skills now to go and have those hard conversations, and just knowing that you can fight for that, and it's important, and there's a lot of people who will support you with those conversations, I think is really huge and really inspiring, and a really awesome platform that we as coaches get to have. So
I would like to echo that. When I spoke to Kendra and meeting her this morning, I would just say you inspired me. The fact that you are the moderator for this wonderful event. We came in and just coming into this room with the energy, with all the women in here and men supporting us as well. But just the position that you're in and to be here to ask us these amazing questions. But these are the student athletes that we get to work with. And in each day, I think we're so lucky that I learn so much. And I'm trying to, I'm lucky we have a role in their journey. But the things that they go through right now, the education they're receiving, but every single day I'm just so amazed of what they're going to end up doing from now on. Like she's going to be in law school after this, and I love keeping relationships with my athletes afterwards, but thank you for what you do, and that's what makes our job so fun is just being coaches, seeing them every single day. But I just inspired by these women, and I want to take this moment too because I'm the newest one on this coaching staff, but when I came in, Coach Fisher has been here the longest, but not that long yet. And she was so welcoming and so inspiring, and even though in order, Laura's been here second longest, then Keeley came in right before me, but I've never met such powerful women that came and supported me right from the beginning, and just kind words. And I'm so excited about what this athletics program is capable of. And you see Joyce come in here, and those are the attractions that brought me here. And I wish we had more time to get to know all of you and your paths that brought you into this room. There's so many amazing stories, but thank you. I feel honored and privileged to even be up here. I don't even know if we earned this right here because I think everyone has laid the foundation for why we're here, because it took a long time. And I know with my age and just looking, I've been coaching for about 13 years in collegiate sports. There's still so much for me to learn. And just, meeting Christine, who was the former SWA just moments ago, and I'm like, I cannot believe what sports looked like, however, before I was here, born. And I need to make sure I educate myself of just who put in work to get me here. So thank you everyone for just being here and for these questions.
kind of Joyce had a really great point, and my mom always reminds me of this, how she's like, I didn't have the chance to play sports. And my mom tells me that all the time. She's like, I was so good at jacks. She like keeps her jacks trophies out. She's like, that's the only thing I could compete in. But I won all these trophies, right? And so it's really great to have those perspectives and reminding you of, because she travels with our team sometimes, and she sees all of the awesome opportunities they have from, the help of the advisory committee, all the stuff that our academic center puts on, all of the resources they have. And she's like, man, I just got to play jacks. And like, that was the one thing she says too, like, I'm so competitive. I think I would have been really good. So it's great to have those perspectives to remind us who are leading these programs to not take that for granted. I think we're always on the edge of trying to be the best we can be currently in the landscape of our sports. So we do get kind of greedy in trying to push that boundary. So it's definitely a good reminder to hear those stories and be thankful for what we have currently today to provide to our student athletes. And we try to remind them of that a lot too, At least you get to play more than Jack. So it's good. She was really good at it though, I think. I don't know if I am. I never tried.
I don't even know what that is, actually.
It's like you throw the, you have like a bouncy ball and you try to like hit.
Never heard of it.
Well,
Sounds
next
cool,
time
though.
she's here, I'll have her come by and give you a lesson.
You at Jack's, Keeley. Laura's mom.
I do have a quick story. As soon as I was invited to be on this panel, again, in my perspective, I'm kind of the other end of the perspective of just being grateful for the opportunities. And I made a phone call and heard a story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Coach Jody Conrad. She was at the University of Texas, a big-time basketball coach. And she was a big part of what she did at Texas, and that influenced myself when I was there. But she told a story and said, there was a tennis player back, like right after Title IX had happened, that was very successful. And when that person got interviewed, the tennis player got interviewed, they said, the interviewer asked, hey, what are your thoughts on Title IX? And the athlete said, well, I don't know what Title IX is. And so everybody, one of the main ladies was like so upset about it, and Coach Conrad was like, it's working. It's working. And so that for me, I'm doing my research when I get up here just to, okay, like what are the details? And when you read the timeline of Title IX and how many congressmen or senators were trying to say, hey, we got to stop this. This isn't working, and it kept pushing through. Again, it's just a reminder that even though it's working, it's still how can we continue to push it. And obviously with our platform and getting to where we are, if I ever have a question, I go to the wisdom person over here because she's been here the longest. But it's just such a great reminder of continuing to push the envelope, push the edge. It's never enough, right? And how can we continue to do that? And I just appreciated that story because, again, it is working, but we're still continuing to fight for more.
I'm equally as inspired by all of you. Coach Tran, my next question is for you. Throughout today's program, the themes of resiliency and leadership keep coming up. How can sports teach us about life?
Oh, man, that's a fun one. Because honestly, that's why I'm here. It's like the biggest things I think of is my story a little bit. I never thought I'd be in this position and be coaching for as long as I have. And I think, just sharing stories with other coaches, and we talk about our past and how we got to where we got. And so just looking back, yes, this weekend we were in Arizona. And I'm originally from Phoenix, and we got to play Grand Canyon and University of Arizona, so my parents are back there. And it was nice to see them and come support the match. But to be honest, when I was growing up and playing tennis and, to get the opportunity to be on scholarship and go to school, coaching is not a career that in our culture, in Vietnamese culture, is not kind of one that they steer you towards, honestly. So there's probably 5 that I could name. It would be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, a pharmacist, and I'm missing one. I'm missing one, but definitely not professional tennis or definitely not a coach. And so in my mind, that was kind of hard because you know, they kind of guided me with my major and said, this is going to lead you to success in one of those jobs. And I was like, I don't see myself in any one of those. And so I ended up, you know, falling into a high school position, and I think that was the most like rewarding start for me to work with being so young and being able to work with student athletes. And but it was hard not to get that support, and I never had any female coaches growing up. I never had from the private level to high school level to any level. So for me, I had never had a female coach, and I didn't know what that looked like. And what's important for me today is to be able to sit in this position and have somebody else see me this, and I can do that. And I look at President McConnell, and I'm like, oh my goodness. You know, there's these positions, and we're breaking those barriers of growing up to know that we can work towards that and we can do anything. And it's still challenging to me because I don't feel that we're gaining that support and respect that we really need. And you know, obviously we're looking at Title IX, and there's some stats that I found very interesting of before Title IX, and there were many female coaches before that. And then actually with Title IX, there were more male coaches stepping into these women coach sports. And the reason for that was because the salary was going up, so it became more competitive for male and female coaches for those positions. So there's still a lot of men in these positions, and I found it interesting because I thought right now there would be more women's coaches, but it's still competitive. And I just am thankful for, you know, I've had female athletic directors and other female coaches in these positions that really support each other, and I think all these women up here to empower each other, and I feel lucky again to be in this position. But yeah, there's a lot to get to this point, and my family is finally supportive. They're coming to the matches, and they're like, "Oh, you're getting paid to do this, okay?" So I feel like I made it, and
full benefits too, right?
That really was the kicker. If as long as I was getting health insurance, they were okay with it. But yeah, and so I didn't have this perfect path, and you know, it was a struggle. And I think that's everything that our student athletes can see, is that there's a lot of things that they will push them down, but as long as how they learn, I don't even know how they do it today with all that they have on their plate. But you know, this is a prime example here, and they're killing it. Like I have so much I learn so much from our players every single day. We had a conversation, President McConnell just asked me, I do have a player from Ukraine on the team right now, and it's a tough time. Obviously, everybody understands that, but the way that they are able to continue on with their lives with such bad things happening in the world, and continue to go to class, come to practice, her teammates have been amazing to support her through this. The administration, everybody here has, you know, sent words to me to pass on to my player, and it's been obviously very difficult for her, but she's been so strong. And so I'm so impressed by my players right now in different moments. So I don't even know if I answered any questions there, but I just wanted to share that. So thanks, Kendra.
Another point I wanted to make, how these sports can teach us about life, or how this generation is inspiring us. One thing that I've noticed is a lot of inclusivity. So I think our young people, in my mind, have just been very inclusive of one another. And so we have students from all backgrounds, and when they get to be members of a team, they're just like instant friends, and they really teach each other about, you know, their cultures, and so that's one of the most rewarding things for me as a coach, to get to see them come together, and students from all different backgrounds, and you know, I just love it. And I do think they're teaching us, you know, it's so cute because they're like, okay, here's the deal on the, you know, the pronouns, and I'm like, okay, I got it, you know. And I feel like, you know, when I was 20 years old and I was having to tell my grandma, like, that's not okay. You need to call people what they want to be called. And, you know, so I tell them all the time, please tell us, like, I don't really understand your slang, you know, so if if I say something. And I did have a young lady tell me, well, Coach, you're starting with a nickname for somebody, and she doesn't really like it. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks for telling me, because we do need to, like Laura was saying, we do need to be able to stand up and say when something makes us uncomfortable. So they're really a huge inspiration. And we also have had, we had a student athlete last year who was deaf, and nobody knew it. She got her master's degree because of COVID. She has a master's degree from Colorado State. She never got a B. She never got anything less than an A at Colorado State, and very, very few accommodations. So, these athletes are really surprising me. They get better and stronger and faster. And one point I wanted to make, when the women athletes are standing up and like raising their fists and saying this isn't right, I just want you guys to think about this. It's because they wanted to go in that weight room, and they wanted to work out, and they didn't have enough weights because they're too strong. You know what I mean? So it's like, think about that. Like, our team was kind of pissed off a few years ago. You guys probably saw. It's because they were pissed because they got kicked out of their practice opportunity. Like, they want to work. And so we now have dads, and we have brothers, and that go, my sister works her off, and she wants to be really good. And so there's that respect. So we are dispelling those stereotypes that somehow, I get this one a lot. Oh, you're the softball coach. And I'm like, yeah, there's nothing soft about a softball. Like, it freaking hurts if it hits you, So I think we are dispelling those myths of, I'll tell you another one. I don't think Coach Bedard would mind me sharing this story. Coach Brian Bedard, our head track and field coach, was playing soccer with his daughter Mai-Ly, who was, I think, a junior at the time in high school. And, he was saying, oh, yeah, I'm a good athlete, and I can play soccer with my daughter. And he said, she put it on me, like, literally put it on me. And he said that was the first time I really realized, like, my goodness, like, she can, basically they were fighting for the ball or whatever, and he kind of amped it up, and then she just like, and he was like, whoa. So I think we are getting those women that they want equality because they want to do the work. They want to be good. They're very invested in what they're doing. And so that's the inspiration to me, that these women are putting in the time and putting in the effort every bit as much as their male counterparts. And I think that's important to note.
I do have one thing to add to that. We do practice a lot alongside our men's team at Harmony Club, a lot of different clubs around town, and it's been really fun over, I think it's probably my 10th year coaching, but it's been really fun seeing that dynamic. I think we see the men's golfers taking the women's golfers more seriously. They'll stand and watch it used to be, the guys just bomb the ball, so you stand there and you're like, oh my gosh. But they'll now walk by the women and be like, wow, dang, like she got a hold of that one. So it's been really cool to see that, because golf has typically been a more male-dominant sport with country clubs, things like that. So it has been really cool to see they go out to the country club, and four guys will be making the turn, and they'll stop and watch them hit, and they're like, oh my gosh, like she outdrove me by like 45 yards, right? So it's really cool to see that dynamic changing, and I think they're being included a lot more at clubs. I think they're feeling like they feel comfortable there. I think that's a really cool shift at a lot of the clubs we've been at. On the road, golf is becoming a more inclusive sport for women, but we definitely still do have a long ways to go. And I said something earlier, and I just caught myself that at least you got to play jacks. At least they're out there now. And I really don't like that word, because it's a little bit demeaning to them, right? Well, at least now and they hear that all the time. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers we still fight, is like, you shouldn't say at least. right? And that's what we still have. That's why we know we still have a lot of work to do. It's not, oh, at least now you get to go play at the same club as the guys. It's like, no, I should be able to make a tee time at the same time they do because we both pay the same amount of money, right? That stuff's still not happening in golf, and I think we still have a ways to go with that, you know? So I said it, and I catch myself doing it, and, you know, I think that's something I tell my players all the time. It's like, you shouldn't at least be able to do something. That's not, you're the same as that other person. So don't take yourself down to that at least point, you know? When you say that, think about what needs to change at that point to make it feel equal, because that's not equal, right? So that's one of our big things is it's not an at least, it's, okay, we're going to work to challenge this area and make it better, so.
Thank you so much. These next few questions are open to you all, so feel free to jump in as you please. What excites you about your sport right now? Anyone can answer this question.
I mean, obviously in soccer, we just had a big win with equal pay, and they're working towards that. So I actually read the article last night, and just in terms of the details, and pretty impressive the fight that the young women put forth to get it to happen and being persistent. And again, it's continuing that it's not okay that we're still less in this area. And they know that, and one of the main points in the article was it started with a couple of people, and then towards the end, as the lawsuit got more into the court, it ended up being, you know, 24 to 30 of the players band together. And I think that's the lesson is it's one or two people are kind of the seeds that get it going, but you really got to catch fire with a group of people. So really excited about the women national team for soccer. Obviously, they've had a great career up to this point in terms of the wins and the viewership, and continuing to raise the bar is what they're asking for, and they should get it. Right? That's what we said. They've been winning a lot longer, that's for sure.
Something cool that's happening in our sport is Augusta National, actually they didn't have it last year due to COVID, but the year before was the first year they did it. But it's historically been, obviously, most of you probably know the Masters tournament. Very exclusive club, didn't allow women for a long time. And now they're hosting Augusta Ladies Amateur event. So probably top 80 amateurs in the world go there, and it's on TV. They play the golf course. We have a ways to go because they only play the golf course on the last day. They only play Augusta last day, which they don't really say in all the advertising. But the first 2 days, they played another course across the street, and then the final round is on Augusta National. So that's pretty cool. A lot of college golfers, I think of the 80, it's usually like 50 college golfers go. So it's pretty awesome opening that up to women, and you know, lifelong dream for them. They grow up golfers and they watch Augusta National on TV. So a lot of coaches go, family, things like that. But so that's a pretty cool thing happening for us right now. It's on TV too. You should watch it on Golf Channel. Fortunately, there's no Rams there, but someday soon. Because I have never been to Augusta National.
Great,
either.
yeah, if one of your players could go. Coach them up.
Can I have a ticket?
Let's start taking donation bids.
I think for tennis, we're lucky that we're we talk about, with my friends, the big question is, like, when you have kids, what sports would you put them in? And as, like, being former athletes, you're like, I don't know. But tennis is one of the biggest sports that has the closest equal pay with men. And I think that's amazing. They're starting to pay equal in the Grand Slams and in all of the smaller tournaments. And we're almost there. And I think that's a great opportunity for women growing up and growing the sport. And I think what's exciting is Division I tennis here and the girls there. You know, I have a pretty international team this year, and the opportunity they have to come to this country and get their schooling paid for and to compete at the highest level. And in other countries, they don't have the NCAA that's as organized in their countries, and really what level they have is just professional. And so I think that's exciting. And you know, I think we're a big advocate for tennis, but we're almost there. But we got to get everyone else on board there. So.
Thank you so much. What do you think about this milestone that CSU has achieved, the most number of women head coaches?
I think it's a step forward. I think it's a step forward, but I think there's still some work to be done. But we really don't want to necessarily. I mean, I came into this position to do the best I could with this program. I think CSU is very special. I love that we're giving attention to the female coaches, but we came in here to do a job, and I mean, it's great. I think that we've already built so much community between us, and I'm excited to continue to support these coaches and their programs. But at the same time, I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say, is that we appreciate the attention on this, but we have more work to be done, I think.
I take it none of you are making the yearly salary that the football coaches make.
No, we're not. I don't have a contract, but that's okay. I don't want the pressure of the football coach. I think that is a something you sign up for. We are seeing in NCAA sport, there's just this animal that is football, and that's just a beast. And the NCAA basketball tournaments, I came from Division II, so again, I want to be appreciative, but when I was in Division II, our team went at Metro State. We went to the College World Series for Division II. Well, those are all funded by the revenue. All the championships are funded by the revenue from March Madness. So, I have an appreciation for March Madness, the men's basketball tournament, and the revenue that produces. But yeah, there's definitely some stuff that we really have to look into, and I just think the Women's Sports Foundation does a tremendous job. They put out a report card, an NCAA report card every year on how institutions are doing, and so I think we just have to stay involved in that, and I think we do have to raise an eyebrow when we see things happening. But I'll tell you that I'm excited because I feel like I have people that really understand me. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there haven't been a lot of women in coaching, because of wanting to have families and things like that. And so for me, I'm really excited because I have my people now. I'm someone who I can talk to, someone who understands, and I've had that with male counterpart coaches, but it definitely, the room feels different. The room feels different, and I think it's exciting that we are hiring more women. And I think Christine in the back here was our administrator for a long time. She was the only woman in the room, and I just looked at her and said how much fun we would have had, all of us. And we are going to still have fun together. We're going to go out to dinner and stuff, but there's a real interesting dynamic happening with pay for play and NIL and all of that. That's kind of a separate issue from just trying to provide opportunities. And I'll just remind you one more thing. Title IX was not written to provide equal sports opportunities. It was written to provide so that girls could go to science class. It was written so girls could go to math, because the public schools were not, if you were a female in public school, you went to home economics. You didn't go to math. So I think that's something that we forget. And I think Mai-Ly's point about international women that have an opportunity to get their degree and to play a sport that they love, and the only opportunity they would have was as a professional. But this provides a wonderful opportunity for a holistic education at a world-class university. And so, I kind of forget what my whole point was, but let's just, that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the new facilities that are going in. I'm excited that softball is becoming a revenue-producing sport at many, many colleges and universities around the country. I mean, it is becoming, so the excuse of, well, you guys don't make any money, we're starting to get rid of that excuse. And can you provide us the same amount of attention that you give your marketing folks, And we have a phenomenal marketing director here who also, by the way, was a college softball player, which they're all the greatest. Whoop, whoop, Bryn. So, we have former college athletes in positions of leadership in our department. So that's really exciting. What Lane Doxson has done in development has just been tremendous, her trajectory that she's taken and how she's helped our department. So those things are all really exciting, but yeah, we definitely have more work to do.
For our last question, what does the future of CSU women's athletics look like to you?
I'm going to go with strong women and championships.
Right there.
I think that's just the accumulation of everything we've talked about as we just keep doing it on a daily basis. I think it's easy to have days like this where we get really excited about it. It's almost like going to a conference or something, and then you come back and you get into your daily life and just do the routine. So I think it's continually making this an important part of our programs and what we're doing, and getting together a lot, talking about ways we can keep working on these different topics. And it takes, doing the work every day to make sure that we do make those gradual steps. And I think it's something that we all make a part of our programs with our student athletes. And I think on the academic side, they see it a lot. So I know when they go out into internships, so just making sure all the touch points are kind of each working to push them in that direction is what it's going to take to continue to break down more of these barriers.
When I came in here, I just wanted to maybe echo just the hiring process and coming in here. What attracted me was the administration. So I think that starting with Joe Parker and Shawnee and Steve, and what their vision is for this program, that's what I bought into, is just the support for women's coaches and how much faith they have in us. And like Keeley said, we're all chasing those championships, but obviously there's so much more to that outside of sports. Is just empowering student athletes, the women around us, and all of CSU. And I think it's an exciting time. And behind the scenes, there's a lot going on of people that make this experience amazing for us and the student athletes. And it's, so just lucky that we have an administration that supports us so fully. And so just come out to the games. That's where you're going to see the excitement of what's in women's athletics. So supporting, that's what I'm excited about when we're in town. Like softball's in town this weekend, and then they're heading out to Arizona, and she had her season, and looking forward to what's coming next. But I think that's the piece that everybody's putting in a lot of work for these events. But
Thank you. Thank you all for your time and joining us today. It was a pleasure talking with you all and learning more about you and your programs. You can follow all of our teams at csurams.com. Many of us are in the middle of our season, and we can use your support. Thanks again for being here today, and be sure to stick around for our final session. Dr. Nicole Earhart's lecture will begin very soon. Thank you.